This is Life Admin Life Hacks, a podcast that gives you techniques, tips, and tools to tackle your life admin more efficiently, to save your time, your money, and improve your household harmony.
I'm Dinah Roberts, a commercial and finance executive.
And I'm Mia Northrop, a user experience designer, researcher, and writer. Hello, and welcome to Life Admin Life Hacks. Some of you may already have needed to help parents downsize or move into residential care, or help someone else who, for whatever reason, needs a hand to get on top of their stuff. This isn't something Dinah and I have first-hand experience with, so we decided to call in the experts. So today we're talking to Jo and Kristen from Springtime, a team of professional organisers in Melbourne. Welcome to the show, Jo and Kristen, and thanks for sharing your expertise with our listeners.
Hi, Mia. Thank you for having us. Thanks, Mia.
So Dinah and I have spent a bit of time talking about decluttering and exploring the different philosophies behind why you might approach it in certain ways. But I want to know, what does decluttering mean to each of you?
Well, I'll answer on behalf of both of us. For us, decluttering means making life easier. It's about being able to find things more easily. It's about being able to tidy up your house really quickly because you have less stuff and everything has a place. It's about having more time to do the things that you like. And I think, and this is a really big one for me personally, it's about having fewer decisions to make in your day. And if I can give you an example, or I'll ask you a question, Mia. How many lipsticks do you wear lipstick, firstly?
Rarely, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I've done a little survey, and of the people I know who wear makeup, most people have 3 lipsticks that they actually use.
Yes, that's so true.
Right? And yet in so many homes that we go to when we're working in bathrooms with clients, our clients, oh my goodness, I think sometimes, Chris, what have we seen, 26 plus lipsticks?
Old and manky.
And yet when we talk about it, clients admit that they actually only have 3. And so in my bathroom, I have 3 lipsticks. I have my daytime, my nighttime, and a red one for if I'm feeling a bit sassy. So for me, that's a whole chunk of decision taken out of my day. I don't think about it, and that just frees my headspace up for doing things that I find more interesting. Bedroom linen and bath towels, 2 sets for each bed, 2 sets for each person.
Sometimes you wonder, how much should I have? What is enough? And you end up either buying things spontaneously or getting given things. Is that why you think people end up with so much stuff? How do they get to this overwhelmed state?
I think of my own. I don't have a linen press at my house. My house is really small, so I've just hijacked a couple of shelves in my son's wardrobe, and it's fine. Like I think we all end up with these towels that we first had when we were house sharing it when we were at uni, and for some reason they just never leave, and we don't use them.
So it's that fear that you think if you throw something out, you might need it later. I'll just keep it just in case I need it.
Just in case, or you just don't think about it. It just gets shoved in the back of the cupboard. So when you declutter and you're down to, one set of linen on the bed, one either in the washer in the cupboard, that's just this whole chunk of decision making taken out of your day. And I think that's one of the things that we really love about a decluttered home.
So what does a clutter-free house look like for you?
I think a clutter-free house can still look untidy at times. I mean, I raced out this morning and there were still dishes on the bench and probably the kids' pyjamas still on the floor of their bedroom. And often when I tell people that I'm a declutterer, they say, oh, you should come to my house. My house is so messy. I think there's a big distinction between a clutter-free house and a messy house. I mean, all our houses get messy at some stage, but the big point is a messy house can be tidied quickly. There's enough cupboard space to put things away. The bench tops are free and tidy. The hallways are tidy. There's no piles of papers or bags down the hallway for people to trip over or have to walk around. For me, a decluttered house feels calm and inviting. You can see your belongings, your artwork and your family photos, your ornaments and your mementos. rather than just regular household stuff thrown around everywhere.
Well, on the surface, it might look like there's a little, tornado has gone through, but you can restore it to that calm state really quickly.
That's right.
Really
Absolutely.
quickly. When things have a home, it makes, you can do a tidy really quickly. And it means other people in your family can also, if they know where things belong and when things have a designated home, they can put things away as well. It's easier that way. And I think Chris and I, we often encounter clients who say to us initially, I need more storage. I need more storage options. And in fact, quite often what they need is to have less stuff.
Some people just want to some help getting their pantry or a wardrobe in order. And sometimes we're helping people declutter their home, their whole house. They might be moving, downsizing, renovating, or they might have moved into a house and been in there for 6 months or so and still struggling to get to some of those boxes that they just haven't had time to unpack, and the boxes have been stacked in the corner of a room. Sometimes we work, the two of us, sometimes it's just one. Sometimes our client likes to work side by side with us. Sometimes they give us a brief, and once we get to know them, they get to know us, they trust us, they give us the key to their home and let us do our thing. Every brief, every job is different. And so we work however best suits our client.
And at what stage do they get in contact with you? Are they at some sort of tipping point where they've tried to do it themselves and they don't know what they're doing, or is it more that they just don't have time to tackle this task?
I think a little bit of everything, Mia. It varies. Sometimes clients are motivated by a sudden decision to go overseas or illness. We have clients too that ring us and we have a chat to them, and then it might take them a few months just sort of to, get the courage to call us again and have us in their house. But once the process starts, some people just really get into it, the clients, and they can do it themselves.
They often say it's a bit addictive because it feels really good once they get started.
The starting is the hardest part, I think, for most of the clients. We have a chat over the phone to them. We do lots of listening. We ask them questions. Sometimes, if it's necessary, we'll do a visit out to the client's house. And once the process starts, we help put in organisational systems, and each of that varies from client to client.
We don't have a set methodology that we are rigid about, and that's very deliberate because every client is different. So whilst there's so much information out there on the internet, and we've got Marie Kondo and so many books being published, and many of them have fabulous advice, and we draw from lots of different experts when we work with people, but everybody's different, and so we have to really go in there, and the process varies because each person's individual, and what's going to work best for them will vary from client to client.
Yeah, what's your take on the Marie Kondo way of doing things?
That's a good question. There's not a lot that she's said that hasn't already been said by other people in the past, but I think she's marketed it in a brilliant way. Sometimes perhaps she's a little bit hardcore. Please don't ask me to rip pages out of books. I mean, it just actually makes my chest hurt to think about it. There are some parts of her book that really resonates with some of our clients. Some of them really like that idea of, holding an object and thanking it and farewelling it and being grateful, and others would, think that's madness. So there are bits of it that we really like and that we draw on, and again, it just varies from client to client. But hats off to Marie Kondo. She's been hugely successful.
Yeah, she has packaged it up in quite a compelling way. I think anything that's really encouraging people to think about all the items they surround themselves with and what they really need and what they really want their lives to feel like is, a good thing. It's about where you start. So when you arrive at someone's house, if you're doing a full decluttering of someone's house, where do you start?
The first thing is to gauge just how kind of anxious the client is feeling about the process. So it's quite common for people initially to feel a bit ashamed or embarrassed about we're strangers to begin with, coming into their homes and looking at their things.
And that dictates the pace that we go out, doesn't it?
It does. And so that's not everyone. Some people are quite okay about it. But if people are feeling really emotional about the process, then we usually will start with something that is not sentimental. So, a laundry a pantry, a bathroom. These are good places to start. Most people aren't hugely emotionally attached to their spice racks. So, that's we can get going, and we can build some rapport and get some confidence and start sort of teaching them the process of making those decisions, and getting our categories sorted about what's hard rubbish, what's being recycled, what's being returned to somebody. Quite often people have things in their homes that aren't actually theirs. They've just been meaning to get around to getting back to someone. And what's donations. As clients get the momentum and the confidence, and we get our rhythm going with each session, we'll start tackling the more tricky things. Other times clients will say to us, we'll find out what their pain point is, and it might be straight away. They might say to us, every time I walk in my house and I look at that front room, I feel stressed. And if that's the case and they're ready to deal with it, then we'll go straight to what their priority is.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the trickier areas? Where do you find people get bogged down, or it's starts to get a little bit emotional or a little bit overwhelmed?
Oh goodness!
Sometimes it's the most obscure things, really. Little things that Jo and I might pick up and think that we make an automatic decision that doesn't have a purpose and it's old and it can go, and for some reason that client just wants to cling to it, but it more often represents something else, something a bit deeper. I love working with our clients, and you start hearing the stories, and particularly as you spend more time with clients and you get to know them a little bit better, they share some of those stories, and then the pieces come together and it starts making sense to you why that mahjong set, was an odd family game, and it meant, time that the family sat around a table playing the game together.
When Dinah and I were talking about what sort of we have too much of, one of the things I realise is I have a lot of cutlery in the house. Cutlery that belonged to my mum, cutlery that belonged to my grandmother. And for a lot of people, be like, why the hell have you got 7 cutlery sets? And it's because we used to bring out that cutlery for Christmas or these big family occasions, these big meals. And so I have really fond memories of this special cutlery coming out, and it represents those beautiful moments in my childhood, and that's why I have 7 sets of cutlery.
And we need to hear people's stories sometimes about things, and that's why we can't be too prescriptive about what stays and what goes, because we don't know the backstory, and at the end of the day, the client is in charge about what matters to them and what they want to keep. And the idea is not, like if you love those cutlery sets and they mean a lot to you and you want to keep them, then that's okay. It's not about clearing out everything in your house and having everything down to an absolute minimal. Things that people often find difficult to deal with are photos, children's artwork.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And gifts. Oh, my goodness, gifts. We have come across wedding gifts that are still in the box, that are shoved in the top of a wardrobe in a spare bedroom, that have never come out of the box, and yet people feel so guilty about parting with it. So we often have to do a bit of work on and I think Marie Kondo actually talks about this. Once a gift is given to you, it is yours, and it doesn't mean you weren't grateful or appreciative, or that you didn't, value the gesture behind it, but you don't have to keep it.
I think a lot of people are going to sigh with relief when they hear this a few times listening to this episode.
Kids' toys are the other ones, I think. I hear so many parents say, I couldn't possibly throw that toy out. Mary really loved it. And yes, I've worked with a number of women on their toy rooms, and 2 weeks later they've said to me, Mary didn't even notice that we'd thrown that out, and they started playing with particular toys more.
Yeah. I think Kristen's right. It's quite often clients, once we've sort of decluttered their children's toys, say that their children start playing quite differently, a lot more imaginative play, a bit less going straight to the screens. And part of that is about the children are overwhelmed. If there's too many toys to choose from and they don't have complete sets, I think it's easier just to pick up an iPad. And so quite a few of our clients have said that the way their children play is quite differently, because they can see the things, they can make a choice, and they've got the room.
Setting an example to children is a really important one as well. Often we run our houses like our mothers did. If they see, you keeping a nice sort of decluttered house and making good choices about what to buy, what to keep, then hopefully, they'll follow that through as well.
My own children, I've got teenagers now, and they're quite keen on selling things as well that they've outgrown. So there's a win in that for them as well.
And I guess there's some things where you have to be a bit sort of environmentally responsible about how you dispose things. I think most people know, okay, I can give things to op shops, but are there other places that you've discovered are great, worthwhile recipients of some other things that we might not have been so obvious?
Yes, I'll just touch on the op shop if I may, though. We have to often educate our clients that unless an item is in full working order and good condition and you would be prepared to give it to a friend, please don't give it to the op shop, because quite often people, not deliberately, I think their intentions are still good, but use op shops as a dumping ground, which just actually creates cost for them.
Hard rubbish is a necessary evil in our job, and certainly a lot, of times, particularly when we're doing a full house, a lot does go to hard rubbish. In terms of what can be recycled, and of course we try and recycle as much, our first protocol is usually our local councils. They do vary from council to council in terms of what they accept, but a lot of them do have free drop-off for, your light globes, oils, paints, paint tins, X-rays, old mobile phones, all sorts of things.
I didn't know you're supposed to do special things with light globes and X-rays. I just put them in the bin. No. What are you supposed to do?
No, don't.
Even my local library has a little box where you can put X-rays, CDs, old mobile phones, videotapes, all sorts of things, and it's very convenient just to, as you're driving past one day, just to slip them in. It doesn't take much time at all.
Yeah, because I think there's lead in the X-rays.
There's lead in the
that's why they need to be recycled separately. Take them out of the paper first, though.
It's the thing for me, with the hard rubbish, it's that first time you declutter, there might be an element of hard rubbish, but hopefully that then makes people stop and think going forward about what they buy and how much they need. So whilst there's an immediate impact, hopefully over time people get smarter about what they purchase.
And other sort of responsible ways of getting rid of things is medicines. All your expired medicines, take them down to the chemist. Don't put them in the bin. Take them to the chemist so they can be disposed of safely. We've even had locksmiths will take keys. I mean, one client we went to, she had like an ice cream bucket full of keys. She didn't know what any of them were for. I don't even understand how anyone accumulates that many keys, but she did. And we took them to the locksmith and he was delighted. So that's,
Oh, gosh.
The other thing we didn't mention was the toxic chemicals. Department of Sustainability have free drop-offs of toxic chemicals around the state at various times. If you jump on their website, it's free. You just book in a time. It's a great service. You just put all your toxic chemicals into a tub in your boot. You drive up, they open the boot and they take it out for you and you drive off again. It's
so easy.
It's so easy.
I have to ask what kind of toxic chemicals you've got.
Things like metho, terps, anything with a poison symbol on it. You really are not supposed to. I mean, you can't tip that stuff down the sink and you're not supposed to put it in your rubbish bin. Even things like fire extinguishers. Every home, particularly in garden sheds, will have products that you really are not supposed to put in your local rubbish bin. Yeah. So you just go on the website for sustainability.
I'm cataloging all the things that I've sent to landfill that I shouldn't, including the fire extinguisher. Okay, well, now I know. Now we all know.
Don't worry. This has all been learning for us over the last few years too.
The other scenarios you mentioned was help when people are helping their parents downsize or move into residential care. What sort of special approaches or things worth taking into consideration in that situation?
In that situation, it's a particularly stressful time for the family. Often the parents are looking at selling the family home. Parents might be ill or they may have just lost one of their parents, so they're going through a period of grief. So we need to be particularly sensitive to that and to the family's requirements and their needs. Sometimes getting in a third party can often, assist with eliminating the stress and the conflict, within a family.
Yeah, we have frequently had sons and daughters say that we've really, saved the relationships within their families because, often there's more than one son and daughter involved as well. And by getting a professional organiser involved to help manage the process, and it's a huge process when an elderly family member's moving into care, there's so much going on, and often you're even talking about power of attorneys changing and all sorts of things. It frees the sons and the daughter or the carer to actually care for their loved one and put their energy into that while we're doing a lot of the background work of dealing with the physical side of the house. So,
and it's about showing respect too to the elder member of the family, that respecting that it's their things, and we try and empower them and give them the opportunity to make decisions about what they want done with their things that they no longer need.
So what 3 things would you advise listeners who are, if they were in the situation where they had to help someone else declutter their place?
Allowing people to tell the story if they need to about things. Whilst it might seem time consuming at that point, it will keep the process moving if you allow people to talk about the stories. I think, for example, I can remember working with an elite athlete once who had retired, and she was time to get rid of all the lycra. And, there was a lot of it, and she'd competed at, on the world stage, and she had to tell me about what each little crop top, what she'd done, what event, and that was part of the process of letting go and moving on. It was part of the grief. And this is an interesting one. If you're helping people to declutter their home, don't let them handle things too much if you can help it. So we were working with a lady, and she said, I've realised that when I'm holding things, I have a lot more trouble letting go of it. But when you're holding it and I'm looking at it, I can make a much more sensible and rational decision.
A bit more perspective.
Yes. So sometimes we find you sit the person down and you hold the objects and show them to them, and then you're moving them into the piles. They're making the decisions, but the less handling, the better.
And finding the right pace, I find, is the other sort of tricky part of our job. Everyone works at a different pace. So if you go in there all guns blazing, and, we have the ability to make decisions quickly, but our client, might need a little bit more time. So we have to, and usually this happens in our sort of first session or two with a client, is find a pace that works for them. And usually as time, we usually limit our sessions to 3 to 4 hours, because by that time that person's got decision fatigue and they're so over deciding, do I need that teacup or not? How many do I need? So simple decisions become a lot harder.
Yes. Yeah. Time limit is a really good idea if you're going to help a family member or a friend.
And how about if you're doing it yourself? What would you advise listeners who are planning to declutter their own home?
So let's say you're tackling your kids' playroom. You do all the hard work of pulling everything out and sorting and making your piles. Don't then just reshuffle those things to somewhere else in your house.
Put them in your boot and take them away straight away.
Get them out. Take them to the op shop, or take them to St Kilda Mums, or take them to the tip if they have to. But don't just move them into the garage or move them into the hallway for later, because I think quite often people do the hard stuff at the beginning, but then just have ended up reshuffling. So Kristen's right, get them out of
and factor that into your time. If you set aside an afternoon, you've got 3 hours, work hard for 2 hours, then go, okay, that last hour is I'm going to put them in my boot and I'm going to drive around and drop them off. And do that straight away. It stops people coming home and going through those boxes and second-guessing your decisions, or you second-guessing your own decisions.
Yeah.
I have fallen prey to that, where I've put things aside in a bag and one of the kids has wandered into my room and found the bag, and they're like, what's this, Mum? They start pulling things out and it's all unraveled.
It can be difficult to get started with decluttering, but all of our clients, and I can say this 100%, say at the end of the process they feel lighter, like physically lighter, and like a load has been lifted. So even if it feels overwhelming to begin with, the reward is there at the end. We've never had a client regret going through the process. They all feel that lightness and that relief at the end.
And they all give us a hug.
Yeah, we do get hugs at the end, which is really nice. And when a home is physically decluttered, it really lends itself to people applying the strategies, the life admin hacks that you guys have been talking about in your podcast. You know, it's much easier to put these fantastic systems into place, like having the shared electronic diaries and the paperless home, once you've got the house in order. So they marry in beautifully together.
Beautiful. Well, hopefully our listeners are inspired to get into it. It's a good time of year if you've got some extra time over the holidays or using New Year's Eve as an opportunity to have a clean slate.
Yes.
This sounds like a good place to start. So thank you so much for your advice and sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
So, Dinah, do you have a life admin high of the week for us? Oh my God. Oh, sorry. I'm just sorry. It makes me laugh because my kids are still pretty little and the pocket money's not on their radar. But I could just imagine getting into some IOU wars and tally keeping and the conversations. Oh, the joys of parenthood. Sorry, keep going. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and there's other opportunities to use actual coins and notes. It doesn't have to be through pocket money. Yeah, I thought I would talk about the Clutter Coach Organize Your Life podcast. This is a weekly podcast. The episodes are 5 to 10 minutes long. Each episode tackles an aspect of decluttering and organization, and it could be from dealing with unwanted gifts or dealing with the piles. You know, we've covered the topic. But what I like about this is for people who need a weekly nudge, it's perfect. It's very practical, it's very relatable, and it will just give you that weekly motivation or inspiration if you need coaching through a sustained decluttering effort. So you should be able to find it on your podcasting app of choice.
That wraps up our deep dive on decluttering. Try this episode's life hacks at homes. If you're helping someone declutter, work at the pace of whoever you're helping. Rushing them may lead to them stopping altogether. Let them tell the story of items they're letting go of to help them through the process. And consider hiring professional organisers to free up families to care for your parents instead of dealing with physical stuff.
And thanks so much for listening in 2018 for our first season. We'll be taking a break over the summer. We've absolutely loved putting this podcast together, and you'll see us back in February 2019. Stay safe and have a great break over the festive season.
If you'd like to join us on our life admin journey, please head to our Facebook page, Life Admin Life Hacks, to follow us and share your thoughts on what we're doing. And feel free to post any comments or certainly post suggestions that we might be able to use. We hope to see you there.
Thanks for listening. Show notes for this episode are available at lifeadminlifehacks.com. If you're a fan, please subscribe and share the love, and tell a friend or review us in your podcasting app.